to Lost in Theaters.
This is way more subdued.
You know that one?
I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We'll do it again next time.
It's just a really different tone than you've done ever before.
It's true. But also, I figured out how I'm going to introduce you.
Oh, no.
My co-host.
Why do I have fear in my heart?
Orville! My co-host.
Now I sound like a Furby.
No. Well, you're still my co-host. That's the significant part. I've always been like my beloved sister, which you still are. But I was just thinking about like, how do I describe your role in the podcast? And I've remembered it's called co-host.
I feel nothing.
Oh, well, much.
I am happy.
Oh, good.
I feel happy.
Go. Like a co-pilot, you drive the plane, and when I die, you will have to take over.
I have so many new concerns about where this is going.
That's all. We're done.
Clearly not.
Okay, today's movie, Ruth. Oh, I opened a can of worms with this one. I didn't mean to open a can of worms. I just thought it'll be chill. And
Were
then
they tasty worms?
No.
Like gummy worms?
I wish.
Sour gummy worms?
No.
They were like actual worms.
Like off-brand gummy worms that are bad.
So like an actual literal can of earthworms?
Okay, but also not
or
that
like
bad.
grub worms.
Okay, here's the thing. This movie is definitely for somebody. And so I don't want to be like this movie is awful, because I don't think it's awful. It's really just not my cup of tea emotionally.
Cup of tea.
Or just,
sorry,
the vibes off of this film just really aren't my vibes. Although it's almost. Okay.
What's it called?
How to Beat the High Cost of Living. It came out in 1980.
Is this like those interior design documentary videos from like
Have
the
we
80s?
ever reviewed a documentary, Ruth?
I watched those.
But I mean on our podcast.
No.
No, we haven't.
Why? I mean, why is this your question?
Well, because you always ask if it's a documentary.
I didn't.
Oh.
Just now.
You just said, you were
I
like...
said, is it like?
Oh, is it like?
Yeah.
No,
totally
no.
different.
Okay, the film is rated PG, Ruth. And...
You have a poor track record with...
I do. And it strikes again. Because
seriously?
this would definitely be PG-13.
No.
Except in place of where a PG-13 rating, the joke is you're allowed like 2 F-bombs before it becomes an R-rated movie.
Uh-huh.
They treat nudity like modern movies treat F-bombs. And it's just, and you're like, what? It just was, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's PG. I really thought.
Do bodies make you uncomfortable?
No. Listen to the squirming in my voice. No.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, but then on top of that, it wasn't just that. Also, the amount of conversation about sex was far too high for it to be PG-13.
Oh.
It was just sort of, for it to be PG, it was just sort of, you know, like in some kids' movies, they have, you know, the meta dialogue and all the parents chuckle away or whatever because they get the jokes and the kids are like, you know, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, not like that at all.
Okay.
Very clearly conversations about people's sex lives and, you know, how these things go. So that, it just was not a PG movie.
What if I said I didn't know?
Well, I would say, talk to your mother!
That seems appropriate.
Thanks. Okay.
I'm just, I don't know who listens to our podcast,
I
frankly.
don't either, really. Yeah. Well, some people do.
Maybe don't go talk to your mother. That could be bad, too.
That's also true.
I don't know your mother.
We don't know. I know her mother, because she's also my mother.
And I know Rachel's mother.
Oh, I spoiled it. We're best friends!
Oh, yeah, I guess that counts, too.
Right? Because if you're best friends, you know each other's mothers, usually. Although that's not true, necessarily. I think of people... My life.
Is this my fault? Did I...
You got us in a hole!
Okay.
The pit! We are climbing out. Okay. So, this movie is definitely a female empowerment movie from the 80s.
Like, legitimately? Or just, this is the category it's been shoved into?
No, like, it is a movie that...
Did you feel empowered?
No. Well, if I was an 80s woman, I might have.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's a comedy, so it could have been disempowering.
Whoops.
But, yeah, I think it was just really weird, because on one degree, it gave some insight into how people saw women in the 80s. Just like, because you get caricatures in movies,
Was
right?
that more or less scarring than the nudity?
It was, well, it might have been more scarring for you, but less for me.
Okay.
It was kind of jarring, actually. It was interesting because we definitely don't think like this anymore, and if a movie was made like this movie... Well, okay, actually, there are movies like this movie. We'll get into that in the second section.
We have left the categories.
Who is this movie for?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, Chaucer scale. It's literally Chaucer on the Chaucer scale.
Really?
Yeah, the wife of Bat's Tale in this movie are buddies, hand in hand.
Wit?
Yeah, it's funny, but it's also, what did you say? Wit? Did you say wit?
That is what I said.
Okay. It's literally the wife of Bat's Tale. It's not true, it's not literally the wife of Bat's Tale, but the moral of the story is that women want to have autonomy.
Wee.
Yeah.
But if you've misidentified what autonomy means,
That's true.
then you're in for a world of trouble.
Mm-hmm. And do you know how people get autonomy, Ruth?
Sex!
Money.
Oh, fine.
It's money. It's just money. That's how they get autonomy in this movie. That's what they say. And now I've spoiled everything for you.
Really?
No. But that's, so in that way, it's just hard for me to really like this movie.
No kidding.
Because it really, that's its big thing, is we're gonna go to the medium spoiler section just right now, because it's gonna be easier that way. So if you want to know more information about the movie, book it. But we're gonna get to the general.
But the
plot.
music.
Oh, the music. Nothing to say about the music.
Zero animation.
There was animation at the beginning, and it was cartoon animation, and it was. It should have been more of a clue for Rachel about what was coming.
Oh, Lord.
Anyways. Yeah. Any more?
So let's medium spoil that.
Yeah, we gotta go to medium spoilers. So there are movies like this that exist today. Movies about women who turn to crime to make money.
That wasn't clear at all in your zero
That's
spoiler
why
section.
I had to move on, because it's just not very clear. Like, they
turn to crime to make money.
It's like a genre now about this sort of, women.
The most recent
Oceans. Yeah, I looked it up. This movie came out in 1980. Ocean's 11 came out in 2001, which is really interesting to me.
Huh?
Because this is a heist. They're trying to make money, so they pull a heist to make money. And
making money.
And there's a movie before this, an Audrey Hepburn movie called How to Steal $1 Million, which I haven't seen, but that I think is in that genre as well, about, people making money through crime who aren't necessarily bad people.
No. Stealing automatically qualified. No, I'm kidding.
Ruth. So, yeah, this falls into that genre. It's early, however, it isn't smooth. It isn't like, Ocean's 11.
I'm squinting at her. She's using the smooth word again.
Yeah, Ocean's 11 is the even the way that the story is told in Ocean's 11. It's all interlocked. The audience gets to know things as they get to know things, but they don't know all the information. They hold some things back, some things forward. It's like very complicated. This is not like that. It's much more rudimentary storytelling.
If I had $1 million,
I'd buy you a house. No,
I was waiting for the tune to click for me, and it just did. Keep going.
$1 million,
no. Guys,
buy
I'm sorry.
you a fur coat.
I made a mistake.
But not a real fur coat. That's cruel. If I had $1 million,
we're not getting money from this podcast.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it was The story writer, one of the story writers was a woman named Leona Thuon. She stopped writing in the 80s. And then the screenplay, however, was by a man named Robert Kaufman, and it was directed by a man whose name I looked up, but it wasn't. It
wasn't remarkable.
I did. His first name was also Robert.
Really?
That's what stuck out to me.
Robert directed it.
Yes, and that was.
Do we blame Robert for many things?
It shows.
Robert, no.
It shows that it wasn't written by women and it wasn't directed by women, because otherwise it would, but there's an actress in it, her name is Jane Curtin. I just realized that maybe it isn't Curtin, because I never sounded it out like Curtin before. Maybe that's a typo. She's one of the main actresses.
Without fail. Every episode.
It's the last name of this woman, okay? And she's a real person. She's famous for Third Rock from the Sun. She plays...
Third what from the sun?
Third Rock from the Sun.
Rock.
With reference to Earth.
Oh.
Yeah, it's about these it's a TV show about aliens who come to Earth
Nifty.
and pretend to be humans, and she's this professor on Earth who ends up interacting with them. And she has this very, staunch professor role. And she was on SNL. Anyway, so she's in this movie, and some people will know who she is, which I think is pretty cool.
Some people.
It's, so that's the movie's general vibe. It was weird, because actually when, you know how in Ocean's 8, you and I enjoyed when the women talked to each other?
Yeah.
And it was just this great sort of,
it was just fun.
Human interaction, it's fun, and they're talking about things, and it's cool. It was similar to this movie. When it was just the ladies talking to each other, it was I enjoyed it, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I like it how they're working together. It's fun. Literally, do I want to say every other interaction? The rest of the interactions with human beings in the entire film was really painful for me.
Oh.
And it might be the fact that it's the 80s, and so it might be cultural, which is weird to say.
I mean, there was a point not so long ago where people didn't lock their cars and kept their keys in their car.
Are you saying that's a cultural difference?
Yeah, things have changed.
Yeah.
In the States, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's changed. And so the human interaction was really hard. Male-female interactions, all of them were really painful to observe. It was weird.
Someone has a sad view of the world.
I think so.
That might be more of it.
It might be that way. Should we go to the major spoilers?
Yeah.
Any questions, though, for the middle part?
No, that was longer than normal.
Okay. Okay, we are entering the high spoiler section. Do you like this part at the end there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so, there's that cartoon at the beginning. Moving on.
Wait, no, what was it?
Well, it was just it's three women trying to make money in a cartoon, and it's the opening credit sequence, so the background is one color, and there's these ladies, and they, try a garage sale, or they try washing cars, or they try, whatever.
I see.
Yeah. So, the first woman we're introduced to is Jane. Jane is sleeping in a car, with her significant other.
Sleeping as in actually, or
yeah, they're actually sleeping in the car because she hasn't introduced him to the children yet.
They are unconscious.
Okay. Yeah, they're literally in her garage. They're just
what?
It's complicated.
No.
Okay. And she's pregnant. She's told him this, and they need to get married, and he says they can't get married until his boss gives him the business, which won't happen unless he can buy him out, or the man retires, which won't happen for 5 years. Do you see already? Do you see already how painful this is? Okay, he's like, I have to buy him out. I need $25,000 to buy him out, or he has to retire, and
money has changed.
Do you see what I'm saying about that weird, painful interaction? It was just really strange. It was really strange beginning sequence.
We're on totally different pages here.
Okay.
I'm just in shock about $25,000. That's it?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Meanwhile,
I'll just cry about tuition quietly over
that's
here.
True. That's true. Meanwhile, we were introduced to a blonde woman whose name is Louise. Louise
Wait,
is...
that's not how inflation works. I get it. I remembered. We're good.
Okay. Louise is, she's married to a vet, and...
Like, Vietnam vet? Wait.
No.
Or
no,
veterinarian.
Veterinarian. She's married to a veterinarian. And she needs $1,000 for her... She has an antique store.
I see where this is going.
That he lent her money for, and she's running this antique store, and it's going under already still, and she needs $1,000. And their whole vibe is real weird. Like, he's really pushy, and she's...
What's his role again?
He's a veterinarian.
Oh,
her husband... It's very strange. She's trying to be a businesswoman, and he's, like, kind of not believing that she can be a businesswoman. And that's part of the thing about the film, is, like, they're like, this is wrong, he should believe that she can do this. But then also, their whole relationship is fraught with him generally being a sex-crazed person, and her generally being... It's just very strange. It's just very difficult. Because their dynamic is not organic. It feels like they didn't cast it right, I think, maybe, as well. Like, the casting was weird. He was... Yeah. And
that's interesting to see even for the time period.
Yeah. I don't know if it was supposed to be admirable. Admirable. Even then. Even in the 80s.
Yeah.
So long ago. I lie. It was only 30 years ago. 40?
Not that long.
40 years ago.
But still...
No, but Ruth, I'm not 40 years old. But I wasn't alive in the 80s.
You were not.
So that all checks out. Okay.
That wasn't explained at all.
Back to the... Okay, third woman we're introduced to. Elaine. She comes home. She's been shopping.
Jane, who, and Elaine?
Louise.
Jane, Louise, and Elaine.
Elaine.
Jane, Louise, and Elaine?
Yes.
You're kidding me.
Listens to her voicemail. Her husband, on the voicemail, tells her that he's leaving her for another woman who's on the voicemail. And it's awful. And you're just... What is happening?
Did you see that one coming?
No!
Okay.
She didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming. She has nothing left. Nothing in the bank.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the vet is at the bank, and the antique store has been dubbed a hobby, his wife's hobby, which means that they don't get tax benefits, which means that he owes them thousands of dollars for tax benefits.
What?
Because it's a hobby, not a business.
What?
So he, more on that later. Meanwhile, the woman, Elaine, is at a bar, and she's all sad, and,
I am grateful to my father for doing the taxes in my youth.
That's true. And Jane, Jane's husband with her problems with her divorced husband who won't pay money, but she needs some for the thing, and it's complicated, and everybody's just having a bad time of it. Elaine gets pulled over by a cop for running a red light. This is significant. It comes up later. She tries to get him to go out for coffee, and then she finds out that he has a wife, and she just gets so mad and is like, "Don't you even try, mister! Go away! And he's like, "I should bring you in." And he's like, "You know who my first phone call will be to?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do. It's gonna be my wife, probably."
Wait, what?
It's complicated.
That didn't make any sense.
Right? Because she found out that he's married, but he was flirting with her, so she's gonna call his wife.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. So Louise, meanwhile, so Louise and Jane show up at a garage sale. Turns out for Elaine is at her house selling all of her belongings. She's been divorced, the one who's just been left.
Okay.
It's complicated.
The third one. Elaine.
1 and 2 show up to Third's house, who's selling all of her belongings.
Oh, they know each other.
Yes! Turns out they were all cheerleaders in high school together, and they're great friends.
Why am I depressingly not surprised?
It's good. I think it's a good premise for women at different points in their life, they're still friends, and they...
This is a thing, though. Do you know about this?
No.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Cheerleaders don't have a great reputation. They're often fine.
They're
fine.
Legitimately. Yeah.
But media doesn't do nice things to them.
No, but these ones are good. They stuck together and they're friends still.
And are about to commit felonies?
We're all in the...
And are having marital troubles?
They are all having marital troubles. And, they are all at the mall now. Oh, one of their friends fires a gun into a fish tank at the garage sale. Why is no one more alarmed about this? I don't know. They have to save... The fish are literally on the ground.
USA.
The fish are literally on the ground and people are, like, picking them up and putting them in a coffee pot full of water.
What?
It's complicated. Meanwhile...
You keep saying that.
They try to figure out how to get money at the mall, and then Louise and her husband... Louise is at home again, and, her husband and her, they're just flirting away or whatever, and then the doorbell rings, and her husband's like, I needed to tell you something, and then she gets the door and opens it, and the guy at the door is like, I hate to tell you this, but you've been served, and she opens this thing, the court, whatever, and finds out that her own husband is suing her over the store, because then they get tax rights written off. And so Louise is just...
Hold up.
I know.
What?
Louise has a conniption, kind of justifiably in this case, because her husband...
Like, does it just, like, not affect them?
Right?
Like, does this have an actual effect?
On what?
Suing your own wife? Like, if no one responds on either party and you just say, I'm suing you, there's lawyers.
And if no one does anything about it?
Yeah.
I don't know, Ruth. But she's upset because it, undermines whatever their relationship, because he didn't tell her.
Well, it was weird.
Yeah.
That's
Meanwhile, and this was a weird scene. I think the Jane gets proposed to, but there's no proposal scene. You don't even see a ring. It's off screen. Like, by off screen, I mean, like, the camera is up and the ring is below where the camera is.
What?
And she looks down and is like, oh, is that what you're saying?
Well, that is confusing.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Elaine has been at the mall, and she sees, when they saw this at the mall when they were at the mall earlier, the giant Moneyball challenge. And it's this ginormous clear sphere in the middle of the mall that is going to be filled with money that will be given back to the community. Legitimately, I have no idea why.
Communism.
No. What are you saying?
I'm kidding.
It's really strange. It's like, they're gonna have like a festival there, there's gonna be like a play, and there's gonna be a party, and the ball's gonna be full of money. And it's very mallish. From what we've learned of malls, because we live in the age of dying malls, it seems like this sort of thing might happen at a mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she has an idea, and what are they gonna do? They're gonna try and steal the money. The comment is, of course, the worst thing that could happen is we go to jail, right?
I don't think so. Someone has a severe lack of imagination.
They're like, men are gutsy in the movies, and they're like, but, one of them always turns themselves in, and they always try, and they figure it out. They decide they're gonna do it. They're gonna have to dig a tunnel, they say. It's complicated. They figure out that there is already a tunnel because the wife, or the husband? Fiancé now. The fiancé of Jane is an architect? Or Elaine is an architect. Someone's related to an architect vaguely, and they get the plans for the tunnel. And then, it's a garbage tunnel. Louise does some snooping around, figures out that they can bring stuff down, through they're planning things. Jane is her talent is canoeing. The other two have planning skills.
You say canoeing?
They're like, what can you do, Jane? And she says, canoe? I can canoe.
Jane.
They decide they need to practice. So they have to go and do a hold up. Jane gets the first draw. She tries to do it at a grocery store. She holds up the gun. It is a fake gun. Someone had to make it for their Boy Scout project or something. Holds up this fake gun, and the woman proceeds to take it from her and pretend like she was checking out with it, like she thought it was something that Jane was buying.
Uh-huh.
And then Jane just stands there and is sad.
Wait.
Then
I don't understand.
I know. The robbery didn't go well. They thought it was actually they were buying a gun instead of robbing them.
Oh.
Meanwhile, they also steal a canoe.
Why?
Well, for the plan. They also have to figure out how to get the money out of the ball. They decide what? Vacuum.
So this is a very inclusive group.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we will play to your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your
Well, also,
strength.
turns out their strengths were needed. They have to go actually steal a bunch of power tools, and Jane brings her children.
What?
This gets them out of a pinch when the cop shows up. Same cop from earlier.
Really?
They're like, who would possibly go robbing a store with their children?
I see.
Yeah, and it turns out that gets him out of it. But also the fact that Elaine, is aggressively flirting with the man, and but then not. The guy is trying. He's trying to be a good cop. It's complicated. Meanwhile, yeah, they're talking. They have conflicting things. They,
Flick, conflicting.
Yeah, they're like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna make it or not?
Mm-hmm.
Then Elaine goes home after they all got drinks to calm their nerves, and Elaine goes home, and the cop is at her house.
What?
Little did we know there was a budding romance between the two.
What?
Yeah. It's really exciting for them.
No, cop,
Meanwhile,
no.
they decide to go to... There's a really sappy dialogue that happens, and basically that's when I was like, this is the wife of Bath's Tale. Because it's basically, I'll serve you forever and make you breakfast.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, I see. And then, but it wasn't, yeah, she said, no one's ever said the right things. And then she's like, yes, that was the right thing, that you said that to me. Then they all, they go up to, the lookout where all the lovebirds go, the bluff or whatever. So the cop is there, but also, Jane is there with her boyfriend, who they're proposed to, and the vet is there, but not with his wife, because his wife is in the living room now, and she's... Oh my gosh. The vet drives me insane. He needs therapy. So Jane's foot gets stuck in a glove compartment. So her boyfriend goes to look for a crowbar to pry it out, and then everybody finds out that everyone else is there. Next day.
What?
Yeah?
Crowbar. To pry foot.
Correct.
Out of glove
Who was it?
compartment.
It wasn't Jane. Jane got the foot out of the glove compartment. They were going to get a crowbar, and then Jane was like, oh, my kids do this all the time.
Thank goodness.
She reaches over and is like, look, you just twist a little there, and just came right out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Well, yay for Jane.
Yay, Jane! Next day, they have this voice recorder, and they go through their entire plan, recording themselves in this voice recorder. So you know what's going to happen next, right? Except the first step of the plan, Louise is supposed to go on time, except she gets in a fight with her husband about what women want. Again, wife of Bath's Tale. Then, Jane is about to leave and finds her sons hanging out with Grandpa, cussing like sailors, and gambling, and she just is like, we gotta nip this in the bud. Then Elaine goes to leave, and her garage door won't open. She calls the electric company, and guess what, Ruth? They've cut off her electricity because she has no money, and they won't turn it back on. So what does she do? What would you do, Ruth? If you had to leave, but your car was stuck in the garage?
Get a taxi.
No, she drives through the garage door.
What?
Yeah, she just busts through it.
Wait, can't you just manually open it?
No, she couldn't do that either. She did try. They did show her trying to do that.
Okay.
I think it's sealed or something.
Use a crowbar.
Yeah. That's where you use the crowbar. Then Jane gets a flat tire. She has a canoe that she's taking to the river for this plan. Gets a flat tire. She ends up having to carry the canoe all the way to the river.
Why is that so funny?
I don't know. It's like the plan goes so wrong, Ruth. It goes so wrong because then
Okay. No.
yeah, they run out the door. They're trying to do it. They're trying to get the thing, and then there's a bunch of money blowing around in this orb, like so much money. They blow it around so it's like inside the orb, and it's interesting. And Louise got there late, so she can't go through the back way that she'd figured out. So she has to climb through a window through a back door back to go under a tunnel. Sets up all the equipment under the thing that Jane brought through the river because it connected to the tunnel as well. And then they put a shop vac under the tube and start sucking money out of. They cut a hole in the thing. Meanwhile, Elaine has been distracting everyone on the top. She was supposed to turn off the lights, but only the stage lights for the performance that was going on turned off, and she was helping with the stage lights as part of the plan. Ruth, this is where it got real dodgy, because then she had to keep distracting them.
Oh,
so
no.
she starts taking off her clothes, Ruth. And it was just not great as it continued down that road.
Thank you for your commentary.
I know. Poor Elaine. She distracts them. And then, so much so that an entire lamp, like a huge light lamp, falls over and falls onto the orb that has all the money in it, cracks the orb, and money starts flying everywhere, and people start going crazy, collecting the money off the ground, and Elaine sneaks off. Meanwhile, Jane and Louise they've just decided to take what they've got and go. They've been shop vacking money into these garbage bags. They have 2 garbage bags of money. Ruth, this is not a lot of money.
No.
In vision, okay? And they get there, they get to the canoe, and they're like, we've done it. Louise stands up and falls out of the canoe, capsizes the whole canoe. Then Jane goes to get the money, but then Louise is like, I can't swim! Louise can't swim! So Jane goes to save Louise, drags her up, and they lose money down the river in the dark. Next scene, they're just sitting there on an island, and then Elaine comes up and is like, guys, I've been looking for you everywhere. What's going on? And they say, we've lost the money, but we saved what really matters, Louise. And they're all sad about it. And then they see one of the garbage bags going down the river, and they're like, oh my gosh, it must have gotten stuck. So they go and they get it. So they get 1 garbage bag full of money, which turns out to be enough, Ruth. They still have thousands of dollars, apparently, from this garbage bag of money. And, now Jane can pay for her husband, they get married. Jane and what's his name get married. The one of them can run her antique store now, and the third one, what was her deal? Oh, Jane, Elaine. No. Oh, Elaine. Oh yeah, and then Elaine and the cop start dating, and they have a lovely life that will probably happen. Yeah, that's the story. It's a great story. I say. I think
this is the one you've been most reluctant about. Nudity really gets you, huh?
Apparently. But also,
no, it's more than that.
The whole thing was very coarse. Yeah. And like I said at the end, and there was just enough that didn't quite add up, but less than. So the last movie we did, there was stuff that didn't add up. What was it called? The Philadelphia Experiment. There was stuff that didn't add up. Yeah. But I still liked the ideas at play, and I thought it was interesting. But this one, I liked the ideas at play that, women trying to make money doing an interesting heist. But since even Ocean's 8 or Ocean's 11, and there's, at this point there are movies about women running mobs. Those are always interesting. And I just think this one, I don't know, it didn't start off a trend, I feel, even, of women in this, because it simultaneously was sort of a women empowering thing, where now they have money, they can do what they need to, but their answer was money, not anything about them that did it. but also they had to do it themselves, and it was just, yeah, it just felt kind of flat for me, and I just felt like there could have been more that was done, and maybe too because it was set in the 80s, and made in the 80s, and so there was this kind of, the retro aspect to it was real, which is weird to say, but the giant orb thing, they used a shop vac to suck money out of a giant orb. Which I could plan, okay, and it wouldn't go well.
Yeah, but did you?
No, because they didn't have a giant orb in my mall full of money.
No,
anyway,
I'm asking the obnoxious question.
What do you think, Ruth? What do you think based off of what I've said?
I was thinking about stars and space again, and it has nothing to do with what you've just said.
That's really unfortunate. I'd love to know what you thought of,
I don't know, it doesn't seem worth thinking about very much.
Oh, so sad.
No, I mean, like, as a movie, it doesn't seem like one you're really supposed to dwell on. Like, it seems like it was probably okay that it's lost.
Sad. Well, now you know what How to Beat the High Cost of Living is about, which is a recurring line throughout the movie.
I think that said, I would still be interested in just watching, like, even the first couple scenes myself, just to get a better sense of the, I don't know, the feel of the movie.
So you know what I'm trying to describe when
Yeah.
I say, Yeah.
I would not finish it.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, that's not normally something that's something I've never been inclined to do with a movie before. It's just like, I just want to know what color you are.
Yeah,
like,
what your vibe
your
is.
emotional color there.
Yeah.
And then I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that's only ever happened for me with Age of Extinction, which
is that our next one?
That's a Transformers movie that we won't be reviewing.
Aww.
But I was the only movie where I've ever been like, yeah, I think I'm done about halfway through, and then I went to do homework.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that wild. Anyway, folks, thanks for listening. Sorry this one wasn't particularly exciting.
It was definitely a bit of a ride.
Oh, good. I'm glad. But yeah, now you know what How to Beat the High Cost of Living is about. And if you want to hear more from us, feel free to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. If you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be awesome. We're on Google Podcasts now.
Does Hulu do podcasts?
No, they do not.
Man.
Spotify does, and you can listen to us on there. Yes, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, folks. All right, bye.
Bye.